Hi, this is Rabbi David Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show. In the ever-changing saga of the sign, you may notice that the sign actually has changed. I asked the producer about this, and he explained that he felt that the sign had put on too much weight in the last show, and he forced it onto a strict diet, and as you can see now, it has shrunk to its regular size. So I don't know what this diet was that in a week was that effective, but I think we're going to market it. So just keep watching for that in future episodes. And whether you are watching on TorahAnytime.com or YouTube or iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts, it's a pleasure to have you with us. And sponsorships. This week is sponsored by Beth and Mati Friedman in honor of their children Miriam and Shaya Hecht. Here's what they wrote: who are reviving the frum community of my hometown of East Meadow, New York. Now, this is a tricky lashon. I've thought about this lashon. I don't think they're reviving the frum community because I don't know if there was a frum community. Now, this is such an interesting story because when the Hebrew Academy of Nassau County started, there were almost no Orthodox kids coming. Ray Findell went out to Long Island and went to West Hempstead. There was no Orthodox shul. He put an ad in the local paper, 9 men looking to start a minyan. He later wrote a book about his experiences, and that's what he titled it. The majority of the kids who were coming were not coming from Orthodox homes. Rabbi Findell told me 2 stories that made such an impact on me to understand what it was like back then. He said that somebody said to him, they said, "Rabbi, you're making these kids wear tzitzis, you're making these kids wear yarmulkes, you're not reflecting the values of the community." Rabbi Findell said, I told him, the purpose of a yeshiva is not to reflect the values of the community, it's to establish the values of the community. And I thought that was unbelievable. And he says, shortly after the school started, a number of the conservative rabbis asked to be able to be part of the board. And he reached behind him and pulled out a copy of Shulchan Aruch, and he said, "This is our school's constitution. If you can adhere to it, we're happy to have you on board." Yeah. So at the time when I was, my family were part of the East Meadow Jewish Center, they had the most number of busloads of children going to Hank. I remember how many, but busloads and busloads of kids going to Hank. Downstairs in the East Meadow Jewish Center was an Orthodox shul. What does that mean? It means Friday night they did an Orthodox davening because the main shul did it later so that people who were going to come later came to a later service. But the actual davening that was done at Mincha Ma'ariv time on Friday night, that was run as an Orthodox minyan. I remember going there, and there were a lot of people who were Shomer Shabbos and a lot of kids who were going to Hank. A lot of people who've come out of East Meadow who today are Talmidei Chachamim, Rabbanim. I know them, but they can't really revive the Orthodox community, the frum community, because although they were frum people, there was never per se a frum community. You're starting the frum community of East Meadow. Just want to put that into context. It was one of the most densely populated Jewish neighborhoods in Long Island, and there were a whole bunch of different synagogues. None of them were Orthodox when I was there. And so this is a tremendous thing, a tremendous thing. And we're honored to be able to have those sponsorships, and those sponsorships go a long way. I got some emails, people commenting on how they felt that the lighting of the video was much better. What was strange is I also got 2 emails from people who only listened to the show on a podcast, and they thought the lighting was better, so go figure. But that's because that lighting has been purchased with your sponsorships. So just look at how it's going. It's unbelievable. This is becoming an institution. This is already episode 18, and it's coming out Parshas Truma. And what do we want to talk about? What are you going to talk about Parshas Truma? Parshas Truma is a very, very special parsha because for many people, it's Mamash Asiyim. There are a lot of people who stopped doing Shnai Mikra Ve'echad Targum this week. Yeah, that's it. They're done. There is something about the Mishkan that pushes people over the edge. Yeah, I know. I was one of them. It's dramatic. It's a dramatic thing to watch. So people got through Bereshis, they got through Shmos, then they hit the whole Korban Pesach and all the Korbanoi stuff in Bo. Okay, muddled through that. Then you hit B'Shalach, you have all those gigantic Rashis on Oz Yashir, those dikduk Rashis where only girls come to life and guys just walk away in a confused haze. Words like hifal and hufal and nufal and kufal. We have no idea what this stuff means. And the yud turns into a vav on alternate Tuesdays if there was a pay in the neighborhood. I don't know. It's just absolutely impossible for us. Then you hit Mishpatim, where Rashi basically sums up all of Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, Sanhedrin, Makos, and a few other sundry Masechtas, throughout all the Rashis. And if you somehow pulled yourself through that, waiting for you on the other side is Parshas Truma, the Mishkan. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. And if you make it through Truma, then you have Tetzava, then you have the first half of Kisisa, and the V'Yakov Akudei. It's Mishkan as long as you can see. And when you finally finish with the Mishkan, you come to Vayikra, all of the Korbanos, Tumah and Tara, all those exciting things. So most people come back in around Parshas Bamidbar, when we start counting everybody, and there's very few Rashis. It's pretty easy to get through, and that's it. But now people are just stunned. When you have a half a page of Rashi explaining how they made the two little prongs sticking out of the bottom of the keresh, you're losing people. That's just the reality. Yeah. So there are picture books. There are models. I don't know why people just have this mental block when it comes to it, yeah. And I'm not going to do it now. I when I used to teach Parsha, I would do my walk through the Mishkan. I would just explain to you the Mishkan in 5 minutes. And I had people who said to me, "I've studied this for years. I've looked at it. I never had it as clear as you put it. But I got to leave something for next year." Yeah, or maybe V'Yakov Akudei. We'll see. But the idea of the Mishkan is such an involved and complicated thing. Now, I've made this point before, and I make it whenever I speak because I think it's completely essential. And I do have, as I mentioned, a trip coming up at the end of February. I still have some dates available, but I do make this point, very often. And I point out that I travel the world. For the most part, English-speaking countries. United States, Canada, England, they speak a version, South Africa, Australia. Yeah, you saw my Aussie friends here. And maybe we'll, I said I was going to include some of my other birthday wishes from Rabbi Pesach Kron. And I'm saying this just so you can realize that I hang out with very important people.
Hello, Rab David, and your wonderful family. Mazel tov, on this great birthday, the 60th birthday. I consider you one of the treasures of Klal Yisrael, and I'm really so honored to consider you a good friend. So, Rab David, I just want to tell you something very interesting. If you ever have to speak at a Sheva Brachos or at a birthday and make a video, this is a wonderful sefer. You see this Gematri Kol, because it tells you every single number, what kind of Gematrias there are. So I was looking for 60, and the word goin, like a genius, is B'Gematria 60, and you are really a goin in speaking. And that's why I'm here right behind or in front of this picture of Rab Shalom Shvadron, who was the original goin in our generation of speaking. And you are just like him. You're able to make people laugh. You're able to make people think and bring across a great lesson. He was the master. And today, all the speakers, they're all trying to be like you, Rab David, who is able to connect to an audience in a tremendous way. But there's another thing that I love. Over here, it says that the word Yedidi HaToiv is also B'Gematria 60. And that's what I consider you, my good friend. You're always so wonderful to my family. We've been to your home many times, even Erev Shabbos. Your wife got us watermelon and potato kugel at a moment's notice, and we'll never forget that. and the times you've been in my home. But the one that I like the best, and maybe you could figure it out better than me, Chad Gadya, right? All those 4 words is totally equals 60. What's that got to do with your birthday? Well, you'll always be a kid. And one kid, Chad Gadya. You'll always be a kid at heart, David, and that's why everybody loves you. Happy birthday. You're only halfway there. You still got another 60 years. Keep on going and be a role model for all of us. I love you, and Mazel Tov.
Okay, so the idea is of the Mishkan, right? I travel all around, and I always say the biggest problem in Jewish education today is that people feel like it's not relevant to their lives. They say this all the time. I don't feel like this is relevant to my life. Yeah. And that's the struggle in Yahadus, is to make it relevant. I always point out the Gemara in Ksubis is discussing a Takonis Ezra that doesn't apply anymore today. And it says if it doesn't apply, says the Gemara, who cares? Mada hava hava. We're not studying history here. Don't share with me insights from, 2,000 years ago, what they used to do. If you're telling me something and I'm learning it today, it's because it has to have relevance to my life. And if it doesn't, then there's something missing in my understanding. When I used to teach, I gave a course in Vayikra. So people said, very often when people learn Vayikra, it means they're going to do Kedoshim Tihiyu, V'ahavta Kamocha. I said, no. First semester, we're going to deal with Kodshim. Second semester, we're going to go deal with Tum and Taira. It's part of Judaism, and you have to know it. There's a reason that God put in the Torah, that all these parashos are there. Not just so that we can study it to get insights into a temporary home that was built for HaKadosh Baruch Hu for a short period of time. Or as one of my students in Or Sameach once said to me, it's not even a house, it's a trailer. What was God, white trash? We built him a trailer? That's an inappropriate way of saying it. I would never say it that way, but I share it with you because I'm sure he's expressing something that most people must have thought. And so much time goes in to describing the construction of this. Now, there are many things we don't mind sticking into Mishnayos and Brises. So why don't we just say, and they built the Mishkan, and then have, like there is a collection of Brises called Meleches HaMishkan, and just put in all the details of the Mishkan into there, and Shalom Al Yisrael. I have to sit and spell out all of the details in all of these places right here in the Psukim, so that I have to know how they made the covering, and they made 10 pieces, and they sewed 5 and 5, and then they hooked them together with loops. Why is that essential? Why do I need to know this? Something like, I don't know, let's say Shabbos comes every single week. Torah doesn't tell me anything. And keep the Shabbos. Shema T'mas Yom HaShabbos. Yeah, observe the Shabbos, keep the Shabbos. And there are people who don't believe in an oral law. So I said, so when Moshe came down and said, keep the Shabbos, what did he mean? What did he mean? Did he have an explanation on the spot? What does this mean, Moshe? Whatever you think. Yeah, but it says if I get it wrong, you're going to kill me. That's right. Easy guessing. Good luck. When the Makoshesh ate him, when they collected him, he didn't see anywhere. I didn't think gathering sticks was a malacha. I didn't think that's what you meant. No, he took it as bullshit. That this means Shabbos. They knew what Shabbos was. So that means that Moshe Rabbeinu came down with all of the malachas, all the toidas, everything that went into it. And the Torah did not see fit to write that down, that we stick into a Mishnah and Shabbos. And all the details of the Mishkan, in Trum and Tetzav, and we repeat them again of Yaakov Pekudei. Yeah, all of this is so essential for us that we have to read it every single year. And those of you who do, right? So I want to say it like this. And it's not me. Everybody says this. I'm not sharing with you a chiddush. Yeah. Years ago, I was asked to speak in a seminary on the topic of platonic relationships. It was the first one of my recordings to go platinum. It was all over the place. I was teaching in a boys' yeshiva. The next morning I came in, they had already heard the tape. By the end of the week, it was another yeshiva and seminary in Yerushalayim, and then it started going around the world. It was an amazing thing, yeah. And there's a big Talmid Chacham, a Rosh Yeshiva, who also works in Kiruv. And he says to me, I've been saying this stuff for years. He just says it better. That is my goal. I don't mean to say any chidushim. I just want to say what everyone knows, but I hope I'll say it in a way that'll make it a little easier. Kodesh Baruch Hu rested on Shabbos. How exhausted could he have been? He said 10 mamoros. Vayihi or. Whew, oh, that was a toughie. He spoke 10 times. He said 10 expressions. That was it. And of course, he's infinite. So came Friday night, that was it. He just passed out, made himself a coffee, put his feet up and said, wow, that was a week that I had. Did you take a look? Of course, he doesn't mean that he rested. It means he stopped. Vayishpos. Yeah? Shavas v'yinafash. He stopped. He rested. He ceased. From what? From creating the world. So what do we have to do on Shabbos? We have to cease creating the world. Now, for most of us, that's pretty easy. I don't know about you, but I can go weeks without making as much as an asteroid. You know what I mean? So how tired am I going to be that I have to rest from creating the world? I don't create the world anyway. So the answer is, because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to give us a world to create. We have our own world. That was the Mishkan. And everything that went into the creation of the Mishkan reflected what HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into the creation of the world. And that's why we learn out what you can't do on Shabbos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't just give a list of things you can't do on Shabbos. He says anything that goes into creating your world is what you have to stop doing on Shabbos, just like I stopped creating my world on Shabbos. That's the connection. In fact, Rav Moshe Shapiro once said, Adam HaRishon was created into a world that was perfect. Then he ate from the Eitz Das, Tov V'Ra, and he destroyed the world. When we got to Har Sinai, we reached the level of Adam Kodem HaChet. The world was once again in perfection. And then we ate, then we did the Chet HaEgel, and then it was destroyed again. So now we have to build a world without any Chet. And that was the Mishkan. We built a world that existed with a new world. That's why we go into that world to get a kapara. Because in that world there is no Chet. That world is perfect, and that's the world that we built. The big world was created on Tishrei. The small world was created on Nisan. That's the old Nisan Tishrei. When was the world created? There were two parts to it. But our world was created on Nisan. That was the power that went into it. So says the Chassam Sofer. Says the Sfas Emes. Talks about the Malachas of Shabbos. Arboyim chosa achas. 40 minus 1, which is a fancy way of saying 39. Why didn't you just say 39? So he says, it's a Kabbalistic concept called Abiyah. There's 4 levels of existence. There's Atzilus, there's Bria, there's Yetzira, and Asiyah. Bria we're familiar with, Bereshit bara Elokim. But the Aleph before the Beis of creation, that's Atzilus. And then there's Yetzira, then there's Asiyah. We find these terms being used. Yeah. And each one of them have 10 spheres. Keser, Chachma, Bina, and then the lower 7, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. So that's 10 times 4 is 40. One of those actions that went into the creation of the world we have no shaykhs to. It's called Yesh Ma'ayin, creating something from nothing. That we can't do. So the 40 malachas that went in the creation of the world, that's what we can't do on Shabbos, Chosa Achers. the Yesh Miyayin. That's the one thing we can't do. But there is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into the maximum universe that is represented by us doing ksira, right? Harvesting. And there's something that went into the creation of the world that we do by making a fire. And each one of these malachas that we use in the creation of the Mishkan is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu used in creating the world. I don't know how it works exactly. I can't line that all up. I mean, I can't really reveal all my Kabbalistic secrets to the general public. You have to be on a particular level. Anyway, but whichever one works for you. But that's the idea. The idea is that if you take a look in the Malbim on the Al Torah, you'll see he has a section called Ramozei HaMishkan. And he explains how everything in the Mishkan corresponds to the body of a human being. The Krushim are the rib cage, and the Aron is the skull, and the Luchos and the broken Luchos are the conscious and subconscious mind. Everything that's in the world is in a person, because the person is an Olam Katan. And the Mishkan was a maximum version of a human being, and a minimum version, microcosm and macrocosm, of the universe and a human being where they meet together. It allows a person to be able to access that tremendous power. That's the idea of what we're able to access when we learn about the Mishkan. And of course, this takes study, this takes time. None of this happens automatically. So when we come to these parashiyos and we're reading about the Mishkan, we see how we're able to access these ideas inside of ourselves and inside of it. Now, we don't build the Mishkan on Shabbos. We rest from it, just like Hashem did. So the idea is that Shabbos is a Mishkan in time, because there's different existences that we live in this world. We live in place and we live in time and place. What science refers to as the time-space continuum, yeah, where things exist within boundaries, physical boundaries and time boundaries. When you're in Shabbos, you are in that Mishkan in space. You don't need to be in the Mishkan in place. An amazing, amazing concept of what we're able to accomplish on a Shabbos. People have asked me this question many years. How do we make our Shabbos more meaningful? And especially for our kids. Well, very often people will ask me about their Shabbos table. Yeah? How do you make your Shabbos table enjoyable? Somebody asked me once, an Avrech, he had small children. How do you make your children sit at the Shabbos table? I said, I don't. If you have to make your kids sit at the Shabbos table, there's something wrong. Because you should want to be at the Shabbos table. And if you don't want to be at the Shabbos table, you might have to change what kind of a Shabbos table you have, which unfortunately we know. There are some times when it's not a happy place to be. If people are upset or people are angry, but it's more than that. It's more than that. You have to look at who is there. You know? I have a very difficult job because I'm a speaker. If you're a plumber, you have an easier job, right? People pay you, they say, fix the toilet, right? You fix the toilet. So I say, I don't think you fixed the toilet well. Well, let's bring in another plumber. Let's check. Does it flush? Does it work? Everything's great. Things work. Great. We can see if it's true. But if you're a speaker and people don't like what you're saying, and afterwards they say, I didn't like the speech, and you say, no, I gave a great speech. It's your fault that you didn't appreciate it. You're not going to stay in this business very long. It's completely totally on the people. People have to decide that you're interesting to listen to. And that's all siyata d'shmaya. Yeah? There are certain people who do everything right. They prepare well, they stand up straight, they have a deep resonant voice, they have everything's great. People don't want to listen to them. It's mazel. Yeah. My father, over Shalom, it was just his yahrzeit. So my father, he used to remind me all the time that I'm a lo yutzlach. And he used to tell me, you will never succeed in life unless I take care of you. But I won't be around forever. So what I'm going to do is try to find a system to win at playing dice. And I'm going to give you the system. The other boys, they'll get my Yerusha, they'll get the business. But you'll get my dice system. So this way, whenever you need, you can go down to Atlantic City and make some money. Now, as luck would have it, he never figured out this system. Never figured it out. That was supposed to be my final gift. And so people say to me, they say, well, you're very easy to listen to. People enjoy listening to you. So I said, that's because I have a Father up in heaven. And he said to me, you're a lo yutzlach, and you're never going to make it in life unless I take care of you. So I'm going to make you interesting for people to want to listen to you. That's just a gift. That's mamash, a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like I say, it doesn't mean that you're any more talented than anybody else. It just means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, some guys from Yeshiva Chavetz Chaim were going out to collect for the yeshiva. And they asked Rav Hadach for a bracha that they should be matzliach. He says, I can't give you a bracha that you should be matzliach because everybody has bechira. I can't give you a bracha to take away somebody's bechira that they should give you money. But I could give you a bracha of chen. People should like you. People should enjoy talking to you because that's who very often we give money to. We don't give money to a cause, we give money to a person. Yeah. And hopefully it'll be matzliach in that way. But it means that when you get up to speak, you have to know who you're speaking to. So I once, when I was a Long Island director of NCSY, I prepared this very elaborate educational program for the Shabbos, and I realized the kids who came knew nothing, but mamish nothing. And I was smart enough to figure out to ditch the entire program. And I switched it instead to talking about anti-Semitism, intermarriage, things that I thought might have relevance to these kids. But you have to understand that the goal is to speak to the people who are there, not to the people who you'd like to be there. Do you ever go to a Sheva Brachos where a fellow gets up to speak, there's a Rosh Yeshiva sitting there, and he turns to the Rosh Yeshiva and he speaks to the Rosh Yeshiva the whole time. Says a whole pilpul, nobody's listening, nobody cares. At the end, he wishes Mazel Tov, the Chassan Kala sits down. He just wanted to show the Rosh Yeshiva how smart he was, and how impressive he was. That doesn't make you a speaker. Speaking does not make you a speaker. Even though people who speak are a speaker, but not everybody who lies is a liar. You understand? You have to work at it. So too, you want to be a speaker, you can't just speak. You have to speak to the people who are there. Or somebody once said to me, Darshanim don't understand the pasuk. This is Rabbi Lemel, who was in Hebrew Academy of Long Beach for many years. He said to me once, they don't understand the pasuk. They have to read it as Einayim vahem v'lo yir'u aznayim. They have eyes, but they don't see the ears. Yeah, you have to see who's listening. Yeah, and that's a tremendous thing. So people sit down at the Shabbos table, and they prepared whatever they prepared. They're going to say Dvar Torah. They're going to this. But is that what the people want to hear? So sometimes kids are at an age where instead of preparing Divrei Torah, maybe you should prepare jokes, stories, riddles. And in case you think that that's not Bukovidik, I spoke in Steen Court, a synagogue in Manchester, Reverend Brody, and he got up to speak, and I saw he had in front of him a bunch of jokes he downloaded from the internet, and he just started by telling a whole bunch of jokes, And when I finally got up to speak, he says, you should really yell at this congregation because the agnostics in the room are terrible. Hey, if that's what the people need, that's what the people need. Or you give those kind of puzzles and things. A guy pushes his car up to a hotel and tells the person in charge, I'm bankrupt. Now you have to figure out what happened. Things like this. So I ask questions. So is that the ideal Shabbos? No, it's not the ideal Shabbos. but it's something that the people who are sitting there want to be in. You know, maybe you have to sing songs to their little children. Like, I don't mean like, Zmiris. I mean, sing songs, give out candies, play games, do whatever you have to do so that people think, wow, I want to be at this Shabbos table. When my kids got older, they were more like teenagers, I would ask a question. Based on something in the parsha. Do you think you should live in a religious neighborhood and protect your kids from the outside forces, or should you let them be exposed to things and see how they handle it? So everybody gave their opinion. And whenever I would tell the story over, people would say, and what did you tell them in the end? I said, I didn't. That's the whole point. Kids are always being told. Teachers will sometimes run a class and they'll ask everybody their opinion and then say, okay, here's the correct answer. So why'd you ask me? I once heard somebody giving a shir, and everybody else was doing a discussion and he wasn't. So he says, I don't have to hear what they don't know. I know what they don't know. I'm here to tell them the correct answer. I don't have to hear them. But, there's something glorious about people just being able to give their opinions. People love to speak. Jackie Mason was doing a show, and he says, we have to have an intermission now because Jews can't sit this long without giving their opinion. What do you think of this guy? I never liked him. He's a loudmouth. How much do you think he makes on a show like this? How old is he? 1 second. How old was he when he was on Ed Sullivan? How old is he? Because everybody has to give their opinion. It is your opinion. People love to give their opinion. The point is that when we walk into Shabbos, Shabbos is this unbelievable time when we have the ability to tap into the energies of the creation of the universe. And in order to do that, we have to take time to think about it. Yeah? There has to be preparations. We're all dressed in our best. Zmiro sung with zest. And everyone is blessed. I don't know if you chopped what that song was all about. Everybody is blessed by the Shabbos angels. That's the Gemara in Shabbos that says, if the Malachim come into the house and find the food is cooked, the tables are set, the house is clean, they give you a good bracha. And if not, they give you a chas v'shalom klala. It's the preparation that brings the bracha. So when we walk into Shabbos, we have to say, how am I going to make this Shabbos meaningful? And if we do, then we're able to, Mirza Hashem, tap into the power of the entire universe. That's it for this week. We want to thank our sponsors again, Beth and Mati Friedman, in honor of their children, Miriam and Shaya Hecht. And if you want to find more about the show, please go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast. If you want to find out about this particular episode or make a comment, it's RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast/18. If you want to find out about upcoming events, RabbiOrlofsky.com/events. If you would like to contact Rabbi Orlofsky, it's RabbiOrlofsky.com/contact. And if you would like to sponsor an event, we're sponsored for another month, so you'll have to get in line, I'm afraid. Yeah. RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast and go to the sponsor an episode button. That's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Rabbi Orlofsky. This has been the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.